We are streaming, I think.
I feel like that's how every video
Excellent
starts.
connection. Yeah, everyone. So, you might be different because the equipment here is that microphone, which they can't see. So talk real quick. We do this impromptu, so.
Yeah, I'm talking.
So
I see the
you got
levels.
to speak up a little
You
bit.
gotta project. You gotta say it with your
project.
chest.
You gotta do it.
Right.
If you need to scoot up a little
I'm
bit,
on
you can scoot up a
scooch.
little bit.
Hey guys, scooching. Yeah.
Kaycee,
Okay.
would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Kaycee, also known as Bob Saget. I do stuff sometimes with modeling. Film, I don't think I really count.
You've done
You
film.
know, a light film. What else? Gaming for sure. And learning the art of editing and all things.
Ren fairs.
Oh, Ren Fair. Yeah, that's me. LARPing as well,
Yeah,
I would say.
LARPing.
Yeah. So all the things he does, I'm probably.
Listen, I don't LARP, okay? I should have found the, there's a, what do you call it? There's like a chart, and it shows gaming, the different layers, kind of like Dante's Inferno. Yeah, and it starts off at like sports, because if you haven't realized that sports, if you're into sports, that's the same thing as gaming. Anyway.
True.
Fanboyism is that. Fanboyism is a totally different thing, isn't it? Being a fan of something.
Yeah,
Being
that's
super into
different.
something. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's this chart, and the idea is that it starts at like sports, and then goes down to like board games, like Monopoly. Then it goes down to another one was like Munchkin or Munchkin. It's kind of a spoof off D&D.
Oh, okay.
What's a Settlers of Catan?
Oh.
Axis and Allies.
Yeah.
You know, people that play Hearts, Spades. People that do these things are really into them,
Yeah.
and they get good at them. You know, it keeps on going down the layers of like super geekdom, and at the bottom, you know, is Dungeons and Dragons and DreadLore. You know, that's not on there.
Not yet.
Below that, though, Vampire LARPs. Cheers. I think Boffer LARPs are somewhere in there.
Oh.
Yeah, Ren Fair is, you know, whatever. I need to find it and post it.
Yeah.
That may be the image that I post for this video.
You should.
Hilarious.
I would like to see how far I've fallen on that spectrum.
You're down there. You're down there. Yeah.
Awesome.
In what was it, the Middle Ages and such? Like, if you were an actor, you were like, kind of untouchable. You were a mummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're definitely a Rennie.
Definitely.
And that's
right.
essentially the new form of being,
Carney.
Carney. So.
Yeah, that's true.
So, real quick, to state the obvious, my intent today was to have Matthew Williams and Jake Rourke on here. Two people that I've worked with when it comes to film. But an emergency happened and they could not make it. So, the plan is to have them next week. And as I was sitting here kind of talking to Kaycee, saying, what in blast should I do now? You know, she decided that she would help because she has a very good, a keen observation about many of these topics. So it's still going to have to do with film and these sorts of things. This is a conversation that we've had a whole lot. The idea of when those disparate things like LARPing, gaming, spirituality, what is it called? Role-playing, Ren Fairism, what else?
Yeah.
Modeling,
Yeah.
acting. When these things actually mix together, like sometimes it's awesome. There's a lot of synergy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you aim for. You don't always hit it right on the mark, but that is the ultimate goal, I would say, of having your hands in so many different pies, is finding a way to get them to work together. And when that does happen, it's pretty cool.
And when it doesn't happen?
Chaos. Toxic chaos. It's great.
Speak up.
Project!
You must project. You're on the stage. All the world is the stage.
Practice my skulls.
Let's see. I think Megan is here.
Megan!
Or someone might be here. Whoever is here, hello. Post in the chat, please, so we know who you are. Hello. I'll do one last announcement really quick. What is it that you do? Introduce yourself.
So, guys, that was the dog, not me. I work lightly within the film industry, kind of behind the scenes.
She's in the film industry.
I'm in the film industry. Okay, if it counts, then it counts. Yeah.
You get paid to do stuff for film.
I get paid to do stuff for film.
You're way more in there than I am.
I have fallen into the film industry, I should say. So while he's got all the experience, I'm learning rapidly as I go, I would say, at the moment. I still come to you for a lot of questions about what it is that I'm doing and if I'm doing it right. But I am, I guess, working within the film industry. I also model a little bit. I game a lot.
It's actually the reverse of that.
Really?
Yeah, well, if you're talking about gaming, like online gaming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, gaming is a whole. Like,
right.
tabletop.
You can't talk about gaming as a whole.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I play tabletop, D&D, DreadLore, and then I play a lot of World of Warcraft. Oh, don't you dare. I'm helping you. What else do I do? I act a tiny bit. That's new, and oh Lord, we're gonna get there. But as of right now, that is all I do.
This is not for you. This is for me.
That's for you? Okay. Yeah, so that's what I do presently. It changes from week to week, so it might be something different next week.
Speak up.
Yeah! I look away from the mic, and I
Yeah,
feel
you
like
do.
it goes...
Well, if you're not careful, then... Because this mic is enormous. If you saw the Instagram...
Instagram.
If you saw the... if you saw the Instagram post, you should... On the stories or whatever the hell it's called. You see the mic.
Yeah.
It's a Rode Procast mic, something or another. Anyway, it's enormous.
It's a big boy.
And it's right there in the face.
Yeah.
And so, if you're not careful, you'll end up looking at it instead of the camera.
I don't think I'm doing that.
You're not.
I'm pretending like it doesn't exist, but I'm
That's good.
so confident because it's so
It's
large
prominent.
that I feel it makes me feel like I don't have to speak up because I'm like, it's right there.
No, you need to. You got to speak up. I yelled at Bad, who I do game talk with. Now on DreadLore, which is a YouTube channel. I don't know why I pointed that way.
It's over there.
Yeah, it's over there. And the first couple discussions that I had with him for game talk, I was like, and speak up, and speak up. It's a thing that happens on stage. Everyone wants you to project.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of who Kaycee is. She's on Instagram. Instagrams.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do Twitch stuff?
I've been considering it. There's a good chance I'll dip my toes into that pond and see what's over there. Yeah, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
So she's all kinds of into World of Warcraft and the video game side of being a super nerd. I know nothing about this. I did when I was like 15, which was exactly 70,000 years ago. Beyond that, I got nothing. I played a little Halo. I was good at Halo, man.
Halo's...
I was good at it. Anyway, getting into, I guess the topic, slowly segueing into it. I've noticed when, and this is gonna be talking to people that know tabletop gaming a little bit more. So there's this aspect of role-playing games called roleplay. What is role-playing? You've had experience. In your words, what is it? I'm gonna get a beer.
A beer?
Yeah.
Okay. Personally, for me, role-playing would be trying your best to embody the character that you've created for the game, and try to think like they do, or try to think like the character you've created instead of thinking in the ways you would in your normal life. So role-playing kind of gives you the chance to step out of yourself, and you get to play whoever you want to be for a little while. Yeah, at least for me, that's what it's been. It's been the hardest form of, yeah, getting out of my head. Like the improv of role play has been harder for me than, say, modeling or acting, live streaming, anything like that. The role play has actually been more difficult, but not in a negative way.
Why is that?
I think because I'm trying to roleplay something that is entirely my own creation, instead of doing something that is already, the outline has already been built for me, and I'm just trying to embody that. So there's a lot more real-time improv going into playing a D&D character or a DreadLore character, especially a DreadLore character, actually, than there would be, say, playing a character on a camera, or modeling, which is snapshot acting, really. There's a lot more brain power going into embodying that character, especially for 5 hours.
So you get into, it's such a big topic, and we could do a couple of these, and we will. I've been having this idea as of late. Actually, let me bolster my idea. It's been talked about in gaming circles of DreadLore, Team DreadLore. This idea of role-playing games, so RPGs, or TTRPGs, tabletop RPGs. Not to be confused with Tabletop. If you've seen Will Wheaton's series Tabletop, I think it's on Geek and Sundry, I think. It might still be. Anyway, tabletop games are more like, Munchkin and, what's another one? God, there's so many of them.
Catan.
Yeah, Catan, and I wish I could think of 2 more right off the top of my head, but I can't.
You will when this is over.
Yeah, House on the Haunted Hill, or whatever it's called. Anyway, that's usually what...
Warhammer? Is that one? No. Or did I say something very...
No. I mean, you haven't offended me. I would say Warhammer is more of a minis game. And I'm talking about Warhammer, like the stereotypical, the one with minis, with the battle map and that kind of thing. I would call that more of a minis game, because you get into art, and there's really no role play in that. But my point that's actually on the point.
I've never played it, so I'm...
Tabletop games typically don't have any role play whatsoever to them. So a tabletop RPG, that would be the difference between a tabletop game and a tabletop RPG, as in TTRPG. Where I was going with that is, many moons ago, I was under the impression that a game like D&D, which I do like, I mean, I run it all the time and I play in it, isn't really a role-playing game. Because people don't role-play when they do it. Some do. Some groups do. Some groups really get into it. But if you've gone to a con, or you've gone to a gaming store, and I know people will argue with me because everybody's going to argue, by and large, most groups are not RPing very much. It's more like they're playing a video game. And then it dawned on me, well, video games, like Legend of Zelda, for instance, it's one of my beloved RPGs, and there's no RP in it. There's no role-play in it. But it's still considered an RPG. And I would consider it an RPG. So I came to this hypothesis, maybe I'll call it a thesis at this point. It's little r, little p, g, versus a game like DreadLore, which in my opinion is, and the goal of it was big R, big P, maybe little g. It's not a game.
It's not a game.
Not a game. What I'm trying to say is you can role play in a lot of different ways. In WoW, in World of Warcraft, I am told there's a lot of role play, which is hard for me to believe. Please discuss.
So there are different types of servers on WoW. You've got your normals, you've got your PvPs.
PvP means
Player versus player, which you can still do on a normal realm. It's just the type of realm it is what the focus of that space is. So there's more weight placed on player versus player in comparison to, say, your storylines, your lore, your role playing, and then there are also role playing realms as well. And instead of, it's a whole different world. I've dipped my toes onto those realms a couple times, and people speak as that character. There's no, like, the trash talk, everything.
You gonna get a soda? Does anyone do that?
No. It's...
They take it seriously.
They take it rather seriously on those realms. And within the normal realms, not so much necessarily. But I will say when you've been playing a character for 15 years, you tend to start thinking and speaking as that character just because you've kind of grown up with them.
Well, and so you get attached.
Attached, and also, like, you've made that character you. When they've been...
It's an avatar.
It is an avatar at that point. And there's a lot of below-the-surface role-playing at that point. So while you might not be necessarily actively role-playing on your guild's voice chat during a raid with your buddies, you're going to be speaking as, like, your character name as a druid. Like, you've got druid jokes that you're going to say. And the people who have gamed with you are also going to speak to you as the rogue, as the warrior, as the druid, especially, I've noticed, if they've played D&D, which is something I just found out. One of my friends on WoW, who speaks to me as my character, I was like, I think that's awesome. And he saw we were playing D&D the other day, and he was like, I play all the time, that's awesome. And I realized that is why he speaks to me as my character on the game. I was like, you get it. You already roleplay in other games. So I think the people on WoW that roleplay the most are probably people that play tabletop role-playing games, you know, as their other games. So there's a lot of bleed over within WoW as well. Not necessarily as straightforward to say DreadLore. It's a lot more under the surface role-playing, born from the attachment to your character.
You're such a geek.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, yeah, that says pretty much everything that I was... It's not everything I was thinking. I wasn't thinking that stuff. I didn't know that stuff. But that's the topic that I was looking for. The bleed over of different games do it differently. Different situations do it differently. So, you've played WoW, World of Warcraft, for a long time. You've done Ren fairs.
Yes. Yeah.
How does that tie in? Because you've done Ren fairs about as long as you played WoW.
Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna marinate on that later.
Indeed.
Wow. Yeah. So I have been doing Ren fairs since about 2008. As a patron, I have been working them only for a couple years, and I will say it is easier to roleplay, I think, as a patron than it is necessarily somebody who works there who's not cast. I've been working at a Scottish trading company there, so we're vendors, and there is a lot of, wall breaking when you're trying to sell people stuff. You know, if they're coming in to your...
Wall breaking. Oh, fourth wall.
Yeah. Like...
Right. So breaking the fourth wall is an acting term.
It is an acting term.
Or a theater term.
Is it?
Yeah, it started in theater.
I thought of it as like a Deadpool term.
That's perfectly fine.
You know.
In fact, that is breaking the fourth wall. Deadpool does it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's that intentional breaking of this is not what's going to sell the thing. This person is not here for the Ren Fair experience. They were probably drugged here. Their great grandfather's Scottish. I'm going to have to talk to them like a regular person, so I do it. So there is a lot of breaking of the role play at Ren Fairs, but when you get those customers that come in and they're there for the accent or for the atmosphere you can provide, it's really cool to ham it up with them. And I suspect that they're probably gamers as well. Red Dragon Inn.
Yeah, thank you. So Megan she shows up. She is actually steadfast and shows up to the live streams. I've known her for a while, and we have gained. She actually introduced me to Vampire.
Yeah.
Vampire Requiem, I think.
Oh.
And then Masquerade. Okay. Slow descent into madness. Anyway, so Red Dragon Inn, Betrayal at House on the Hill. Thank you. Arkham Horror. I cannot believe I forgot Arkham Horror. Ugh.
You just woke up. It's fine.
It's true. I did wake up at the noon. So as Megan says, she's talking about the Ren people. If you want to read that. Ren people do the deep dive.
Yeah, they definitely. Especially the cast. I've never gotten to be real cast. I've been a substitute for a couple skits, if you will, and getting that knowledge that you can stay in character the whole time you're doing an interaction is pretty cool. There's a lot of freedom with that, but also it does feel like gaming in the fact that you have to improv real quick depending on what the muggles, if you will, around you say. So that was hard for me getting into the Ren Fair scene. I refused to be cast for a couple years because I was like, I'm just not quick enough on my feet. You have to build a character. You've got to commit to that character. And you have to stay in that character for an entire day. Like while you're eating lunch, while you're running to the bathroom, there's no point at which you're not around people.
Yep.
So there's a deep dive is a great term for that. It's a lot harder. It's a lot of energy. I feel like.
And getting into the idea of how these things mesh. Sorry, I keep on taking these off because my eyes hurt. The idea of staying in character, it's hard. One of the harder parts of it is you have to give yourself permission. So you have to give yourself permission to actually be that character. Otherwise, you feel stupid.
There's a dissonance there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in front of a camera. Especially in front of a camera. You know, if you're looking at a bunch of crew, and they're not there to watch your performance. I mean, sometimes they are. They're there to make sure that the lights don't fall on someone's head, that the director gets what they need, is getting what they need. You know, they're pulling their cues. You get the sound person who's trying to be very quiet, you know, and holding the boomstick or.
Not whacking you with the boomstick.
This is my boomstick. My point is, you have a ton of people on behind the camera, on set, who are all doing something, and then the moment that action's called, everyone does this.
Yeah.
Silence. And, you know, sometimes you have to wait for a cue, where it's like there's, you know, an explosion. I've never been in that situation because I'm on low-budget stuff. But to be on in that moment, you can mess up, but then you have to cut the take and do another one, right? And that can be incredibly costly if you have 20, 25 people and you're paying them. Even if you're not paying them, it's everyone's time.
Right.
You know, if you think about it, and one of my buddies and a director and a fellow actor, his name's Nathan John Paul, who I will hopefully get on here sometime. He's actually very active in Lexington and around Lexington. He writes and all kinds of stuff. Does a lot of devised theater is what it's called. Anyway, I was in a rehearsal that he was the director. And, there's a whole lot of dancing, which I did not do. I was doing the acting. That's all I had to. My dancing was kind of like, hey, that's it. But you had these professional dancers that they're doing, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. I actually know what you're talking about.
And they were supposed to be doing all of this on stairs. Anyway, so it's very involved what they were doing. We were going through, rehearsal. This is a theatrical project, not film. And about the second or third, kind of cut, okay, let's reset and start it again to practice. Nathan turned and very calmly announced to the cast, how long do you guys want to be here tonight? And they were like, well, we'd like to get out of here by 8. It was probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And he said, okay, we're going to get out of here around 2 a.m. And we were like, I'm sitting there reading my lines like, great. And they all, they're like, oh no, 2 a.m. And he says, if every time I say cut, you guys talk for a minute. And he wasn't being a dick. He was being actually incredibly diplomatic. That's something that I really enjoy about Nathan's ability in directing. And they kind of had this questionable look on their face. And he says, look, we practice for, let's say, 2 minutes, and then I say cut, and you talk for a minute. If you think about it, you're just lengthening our rehearsal by a third, by 33%, every time you do that. You gotta shut up. When there's a cut, when you're in rehearsal or whatever, you just go through. Cut, reset, start again. My point is, time is very, very costly. 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there, over the course of 10 hours, makes your shoot 15, 16 hours, and then you're tired, and you gotta stay in character the whole time. That's really hard. Not only do you have to give yourself permission and realize that you're not stupid for acting, but also you got to have that focus of, I'm here doing a job. Now, that's more of the acting theatrical side. I don't know, in Ren Fairs, the day is moving on, right?
Right, yeah.
So maybe it's not the same.
Well, I mean, I feel like you would know just as well as I do, because you're within that sphere as well, and to be fair, I've never done the kinds of acting that you have done.
Right, but I've talked for 8 minutes, so you have to talk.
I'm going to talk now. But I feel like at the Ren Fair, there's a mix of those people. Like, you have people who will act their socks off all day long.
Right.
80-degree weather in full armor, sweating, just no reason to be that pleasant.
I don't wear armor. I'm a Viking.
Yeah,
Although I think Vikings had chainmail, but
yeah,
we don't.
Anyway.
Megan says, standard white boy dancing. Yes.
That's what he's got, guys.
Correct.
We're working on it.
Some people can just roll with it and be glorious. Also truth.
Yeah.
Also truth. Yeah,
It's true.
the Ren Fair is one of those things. So I'm part of or have been a part of a group called Ulfhe. It's a Viking entertainment group. This segues very nicely into what we're going to talk about next. Gets into the spirituality aspect of, role play. So with Ulfhe, we're an entertainment group. It's a stunt group, to be honest. Would you categorize it as that? I mean, you've seen it actually.
Yeah, I would say you all definitely count as a stunt group for the moves that you all perform. Those count as stunts.
Well, they perform it. I do some stunts. I fall down. I do falls, and swing around a spear and a shield. But a couple of those guys, they've got a very good background in capoeira. And Aikido and stuff, and so they can do falls and flips, and talking about dudes that are like 6'3", spinning around in the air like a Chinese diver. It's ridiculous. Anyway, hopefully we'll have Tim Roberts on here. Also, Bad, I should give note, Bad and Tim Roberts are actually the owners of Ulfhe. So hopefully we'll get on there, or them on here to talk a little bit. Anyway, moving forward. So you saw them before I was involved with it. How has their performance at the Ren Fair changed? And because Viking is in Norse mythology and Norse paganism, this is a pretty big thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Getting into the Ren Fair, people that come to the Ren Fair, are they acting? Are they not acting?
Well,
you have a keen, I'm going to say keen again, a sharp perspective on this.
fair, yeah. Well, from the outside, it seems that as time has progressed, there has been more of the embodiment of that kind of Viking-esque personality. It's easier to see, like, you all as the group, like, step into that. And instead of it just being a performance that happens 3 times a day, your interactions in between are still those characters, those people. And I don't know who all knows Tim Roberts, but when he steps into his little Viking self, that's funny.
He's huge. He's like 6'3".
He's a large man. He's large, and he's also in charge. The air just changes.
Yeah.
You almost feel like you're in danger, which is kind of the whole point.
He plays the Jarl.
Yeah.
In it.
Yeah.
And Ben, or Bad, plays kind of, and I'll get this wrong, but he's not the seer, but he's kind of the moral compass of the Vikings when he's in character.
Right.
He's what's called a skald, which is what my character is as well, a speaker, and he's kind of the second in command to the Jarl in a way. Of course, in real life, that's not their relationship. They're partners in the business, but
for the sake of performance,
they both do that. Actually, pretty much everyone.
Everybody, yeah.
I can only think of one person that sucks. That guy Eric. Man.
You be nice to my friend Eric.
He's awful.
I will take one of his Crocs and fuck you. Eric's awesome. They're all awesome, and seeing them set up in the morning as just regular people, and then when those gates open, just into Viking mode is pretty cool.
I think the biggest change, and I don't want to be blowing the smoke up Ulfhe's ass, but they are good, and they started before I was ever even thought of. So I'm talking about it from the outside a little bit. The biggest change, I think, is in the ladies who are actually in Ulfhe as the Vikings, because they really do their personalities, their real personalities, are nothing like their characters. I mean, there's a little bit of truth in there. I think you have to put yourself in, just like role playing in Dungeons and Dragons.
That's how you relate to your character. Yeah.
Right. There's something that scratches that itch.
Right.
Oh, this is what I've actually wanted to do for a while. But yeah. The ladies in it get pretty fierce.
Yeah.
You can check them out on Ulfhe Viking Entertainment on Instagram, and there's videos and tons of pictures.
Yeah. It's really badass.
It's really cool.
It's awesome. Yeah,
But they're not pagans.
Right.
At least as an entertainment group, and
right.
that was my point. Some of those people actually, their spirituality might be Norse paganism, or Wicca, or Christianity, or whatever. But they're acting at the Ren Fair. They are actors, right? When I'm out there doing my thing, I'm not a pagan. I mean, I'm a heathen, or I would be called a heathen, I'm sure. But I'm not, the voice, I'm getting that from Vikings, the show. Ragnar Lothbrok, that's where I'm getting it from. And what's the other one?
Forbidden Lost Kingdom?
Last
Kingdom.
Last Kingdom. I watched the first season. It was good.
Yeah.
You
It's
know
really-
the guy, don't you?
I'm a degree removed from that guy. With the current state of the world, we've not actually met in person. That might still happen depending on when Hollywood kind of revives. If it does.
Yeah.
So there's a chance I will get to work with him potentially, but
And is it Hylung?
Hylung, yeah.
Yeah, she says, she's like, I'm not really in the film and just, yeah.
Well, okay.
But they're actually pagans.
Right?
I mean,
Hylung,
I don't want to speak for them, but.
So, Hylung, I believe everyone within that group is either pagan or of Scandinavian descent, and they are trying to honor their heritage, whether it be a religious thing for them, it could just be an ancestral thing.
Give that person the good.
We're gonna give them the good.
You gotta press and hold. It's not an Android phone.
I miss Android.
I don't.
Yeah, technology and me.
She just got a fancy phone. You want to show the fancy phone?
I got a. Well,
this actually gets into our topic.
Yeah, I got that thing. I could not be a hand model, let me tell you. It's Apple, and it makes me sad. But it's got a good camera.
It's a good damn phone. She took some photos, and I was like, oh, I've got an iPhone 6S. It's what I shoot most of my stuff on because it's got a good damn camera. That dude is ridiculous. I mean, it can actually shoot at night, all kinds of cool stuff. Anyway, we'll jump to that here in a moment. We're talking about Hylung, paganism, these things that they're incredibly popular. The series like Last Kingdom, Vikings. You know, a lot of people are learning about Norse paganism, the actual religion, from that. Whereas I feel like when you watch Thor Ragnarok, maybe some people are like, that's what Odin is. It's Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins does a great job, I think.
Yeah.
But it's pretty clearly it's Marvel, you know. They're changing it.
It's clear that it's entertainment.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you listen to Danheim or Hylung or
Druna.
Druna.
Skald.
Boom.
Yeah.
And
Young Atlas.
Young Atlas.
Yeah. Young
Boom!
Atlas.
The dude, this guy
is awesome.
He's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. And you start to blur that line. Are they acting? Are they performing? Or is it something actually from the heart? You know, a lot of them play Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of them are performing, at least initially, at Renaissance fairs and those kinds of things. So there's that bleed over. Are they posers? Are they LARPers? And I'm using LARPers in a very gnarly term. Just so you know, I'm a LARPer. Okay?
We both are, yeah.
We LARP. Anyway.
Yeah, we LARP.
Anyway, I ran a LARP, damn it. My point is, where are you being false? Where are you not? This gets into some actually nitty-gritty stuff for Hollywood. The idea of, let's say, I know Halle Berry, I think it's Halle Berry, got a job to play a trans man. I'm pretty sure. I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. And there was a huge uproar about this, and she actually made an apology. And I hope I'm not saying this wrong. Hopefully it was Halle Berry, because I'll just look stupid if it wasn't. But the point is, whether that example is wrong or not, it's a pretty big example. An uproar of playing someone that you're not, of acting like someone you're not, because of socio-political reasons. Good, bad, ugly, is it right, wrong? You know, that's a whole debate that I don't really want to have here. But my point is, I feel like there's some analog to it. When do you actually need to be what you're acting as? You need to be what you're selling. Because a movie, this is something that I've gotten into. You know, I try to research about the industry and all these sorts of things because I want to be in that industry and I want to be successful in it. What is the industry? It's selling things. That's what it is. There's craft involved, there's art, there's passion, there's truth, there's social commentary. You are selling movies, though. You're selling tickets at a show. I mean, watch the movie Shakespeare in Love. You get a behind the scenes of the acting world. They're there to sell stuff, you know? Because if you don't sell stuff, you don't blah, 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 blah. But at what point do you actually need to be the thing you're selling? You know, and at what point is it kind of being a poser? You know, if I play a black man in a movie, I know that sounds crazy, but this was actually a conversation I was watching on the YouTubes. This discussion of I can't remember the interviewer or the actor. Forrest Whitaker, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember who it was. And I have no idea who the interviewer was. Anyway, I'll try to find it and throw it in the description. But this has been a few months ago. I can't remember. My point is, though, they were asking him, whoever the actor was, who was an African American, and they were saying, do you think a white person or someone who's not African American could play a black role, and vice versa? And the actor said, yeah, of course. But they'd have to do a damn good job. You'd have to really actually understand what that is, and that's really the question. Can you actually do it justice? But that's a different thing altogether. You know, paying tribute, paying homage, doing it justice is not being it. For example, if I dress up like a Viking and go perform with Ulfhe, and I'm showing this Norse paganism, I'm not Norse pagan, but am I doing it justice? Go. What are your thoughts? I'm not necessarily, I'm definitely not right on a lot of it.
Well, I feel like that's a topic of a lot of controversy right now.
It's a stabby topic.
It's a stabby topic, especially within my world currently.
That's why we're talking about it.
That's why we're talking about it. And I don't think there's a clear-cut right answer for any of it. It is, you do your best to create this character or to portray this situation, but once it leaves you, it kind of has a life of its own, and how people perceive it is an entirely different beast than what you have given off, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So while you can have the best of intentions and you could have done your research and you could be doing this because you care about the role, because for whatever reason, that doesn't guarantee that the audience is going to perceive it that way, or that they will even give you the space or the chance to explain that, or that they will care. So I feel like it should be thought of in different terms of the audience aside, what is the actor doing, what is that project doing, and then the audience is going to tear it apart however they may, or love it however they may, but that has to be something separate, because once it leaves you or the studio or that film space, that performance space, it's suddenly different. It's a different beast. It's got a life of its own, and the audience will do with it as they will. So as the entity itself of what you're creating, I think, as long, in my incredibly humble opinion, I think that if it is something that you are trying to do justice and you're putting the work in to understand what it is you're building, what it is you're trying portray or create, then you're doing it for the right reasons. And if you're the person to portray that role, then people believe that you have the talent to pull it off. So it's not just you stepping into that role. There are people behind you who have faith that you can do what it is that they have cast you for. So it's not even just your own ability. It's a collection of people who are trying to create this image, and whether or not the audience portrays or takes it as such is incredibly slippery these days. But
well, and you're touching it with a pen, because to create a film or to have a performance is to both our performances. I mean, I think someone like Johnny Depp might, or Marlon Brando might disagree, because there's this whole rumor or what have you that at least a while ago, that Johnny Depp, he was asked, has he seen his movie? He said no, he never watches them. And they asked him why, and he said, well, because after I'm done with the acting, that was why I was there. Like, I'm there to do this art, and then what they do with it is something I don't know much about. Now I'm paraphrasing the whole hell of it. I'm paraphrasing the hell out of it, just to make my point. And if I'm wrong, I'm still making a point. But still, don't you have the responsibility? For example, let's pull this into something more real world, like bartending. So, Kaycee's a bartender. She's a mixologist. Yeah. I've just gone to the Lexington Bartending School, which I say, if you haven't gone there and you are able to, do it, because it's awesome. Yeah. Anyway, in bartending, you have a responsibility to your customers.
Yeah, there is, at least how I bartend, there's a great deal of acting within the bartending world. Your primary responsibility is to sell an environment to people, an atmosphere.
To sell.
Yeah, it is, very similar to acting in that regard. You're there to sell an environment, because people can always drink at home for far cheaper than they can at a bar. They're not there for the drinks. They're there for the environment.
The world is a stage.
The world is a stage. And
I just wanted to...
Yeah, do it. Do it.
The world is... I actually don't know. I don't know that monologue.
He's got that line down.
I've read it, though, damn it. Go on.
Yes, so bartending is a form of acting in and of itself. Most of the people I know are not themselves behind a bar. They are
She says, please project, darling.
Please project. I'm so bad at this. Thank you.
You're not bad at it. You're just not used to it.
I'm not used to it. Projecting for this long, especially.
Well, normally, podcasts would have more than one mic. And maybe I will get a couple mics. These mics are actually pretty badass. I should put them in the description. They're $100. They're the Rode Pro mics, I think is what it is. And it's an excellent mic. Anyway, continue with what you were saying about bartending. And the responsibility the bartender has to their customer.
Yes.
Let's say people are getting drunk. They come to your bar. They're getting a whole bunch of highballs.
Highballs.
A whole bunch of martinis and such, whatever. And then you're getting their money.
Mm-hmm.
And then they leave. Go on.
Yeah. So...
A lot of people don't know this.
Well, I guess that's true. That is true. I'm coming... When I turned 21, I was a bartender. So I have a much different view of the world than I think somebody who got to drink in front of a bar before they went behind the bar might have. I only know it from the behind the bar side, because that is kind of how I was introduced into the drinking scene anyway, with the exception of China, but that's a different thing. So when I'm working with a customer, when I'm interacting with a customer, I become whatever they need me to be for that interaction. We work for tips, so we don't have the ability to necessarily be ourselves and pay our rent. There's this whole, debate over tipping and whether that's good or bad, and that's aside as well. We become who we need to be to get the money out of the wallet and into our tip jar. But also, especially if they're a regular, if you see them a couple times, you develop this kind of rapport with them, and you start to care about, what's going on in their home life, what's happening behind the scenes, and you become a little bit more of that character that you're playing, because now there's feeling and there's emotion behind it as well. So it gets easier to slip into those roles because they stop being just this facade, and they're almost built out into these different people that you're playing for a purpose more than entertainment. It becomes more of like a therapist role or a mentor role, a teacher role. And so it's almost like, I can't think of the when you have multiple personalities, what that's called at the moment, but it almost becomes of a form of intentional multiple personalities, because you're wanting to do a good job for your bar, you're wanting to do a good job for yourself so that, you can afford to eat, but also you realize that you have this great responsibility to either make a person's day or break it. They're in a very vulnerable state of suggestion when they're at a bar. That's kind of why they're there. And whether they're there to pick up chicks, whether they're there to be picked up, whether they're there because they just had a bad day at work and they just need to relax and unwind before they go home. Some people just got, evicted, and so they're at the bar just trying to figure out what to do. All of these people are in a more vulnerable state than they would be in any other establishment necessarily. I can think of a few that'd still be in the same state, but you kind of have this responsibility to kind of hold these people together, make sure that they're okay, and with the understanding that you're still responsible for them after they leave your establishment. What they do afterwards still can harm you in a way by law. So I don't know if it would count as acting, but if so, that's probably the deepest dive I have ever had to do, is into the role of a bartender, especially one that cares about their customers, You do become who they need you to be. And while at first it is for the money, because, that's why you're at work, it does end up becoming this whole other thing of, well, now you're their therapist or just, their bar friend or whoever, and you realize that you do start affecting the course of their potential lives
in a very real way.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of responsibility that I try to take rather seriously. I can't speak for the rest of the bartending world, but I do know that a lot of my friends here in Lexington specifically are in the same boat with that. We end up, becoming these people for years while we're at these bars. And those personalities will stick with you for a while, and you can snap into them rather quickly, which you've probably seen now that you've bartended with me.
Yeah.
It's a rather abrupt sort of thing. It's not, oh, okay, get ready. It's just, you just step out into the person you've got to be for the person in front of you. And then you'll turn to another person, and you'll have to be somebody different. It's a whole thing.
So this is selling something, but also having responsibility.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as acting. It's just in acting, or it is acting, but it's the same thing as in a play or on film to a degree. There's a responsibility to if you're doing a film that is going to reach a lot of people, and I have never done a film like that, but my mind tells me this. My brain.
His brain talks.
My brain tells me this. If you know that the movie you're in, or the song you write, or the thing you say, the thing you tweet, for example, is going to have an impact. And I'm talking about actors, not necessarily political figures, but actors.
Yeah.
There's a responsibility there. At what point do you lose the ability to be, or lose bits and pieces of your individuality and just be able to do what you want? And this is a philosophical question, but let's pull it back into the real world. Bartending, Ren fairing, being an actor on a stage, modeling,
Role
playing. You're acting, you're jumping into this character, but there's a responsibility. Again, another reference that I'm not sure. Also, Megan, thank you for the quotes for Shakespeare.
Oh, schizophrenia. Multiple personality.
Schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder.
Thank you.
I was thinking it was from The Tempest or Midsummer. Not Midsummer Night's Dream. That's because those are the last two things I just read. As You Like It. I mix up As You Like It with Twelfth Night so much. And honestly, to my credit's the wrong word. In my defense, they're pretty freaking similar. Okay. All the world's a stage and all the men... You want to read it?
Where are we at?
Right here.
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. Oh.
There's more.
At first the infant mewling, yes?
Yep.
Okay, and puking in the nurse's arms. Then the whining schoolboy, with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. That was me. I feel that.
Yep. And it's from As You Like It, spoken by the melancholy Jacques. Yeah. I read that a while ago. Anyway. And Jacques is probably my favorite character in that play. Where were we? Man. What were we talking about? Right, the idea of responsibility, the idea of...
Acting responsibly.
Acting responsibly. So, this was the reference that I was thinking of. So, I didn't see this movie. I saw the trailers back when there were trailers that you would see on commercials. And it was a little bit before streaming services, I'm pretty sure. So, this has been a while ago. A while ago. Many moons ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, the story of this movie is there's this guy, it's Nazi Germany, and there's this guy who is a spy, and his persona that he has to have is he takes on the persona of a Nazi, and he essentially becomes the Bill O'Reilly of Nazi Germany. That's... Sorry, Bill O'Reilly. Apparently he's not that bad of a guy, by the way. According to Jon Stewart, Bill O'Reilly's actually, if you're just with him, hanging out, not in front of a camera, he's actually okay. I know there's a shit ton of controversy and stuff there. I'm not trying to say Bill O'Reilly's great.
I don't even know who he is.
Oh, well, that's actually cool. The O'Reilly factor was something to behold. At any rate, he was a very verbose, loud, striking, and I don't want to say cantankerous, but he yelled a lot. A very, very right-wing dude. Anyway, that was a terrible analogy. I just called Bill O'Reilly a Nazi. Although I did say that I compared him to someone who was acting like a Nazi for a purpose. Yeah. So in a way, I'm okay with that. The point is, this movie, this guy, for years, he plays he's the spy, this guy who, I don't know which country, he's probably British, and I'm talking about in the fiction of the movie, who is a Nazi, and he's the voice of Nazi propaganda in the movie. So, after it's all said and done, and they're doing the Nazi trials, and, you know, they're hanging people, right? The thing is, this guy was a spy. So, no one really knew he was actually not a Nazi. And he's put on trial. And he's like, look, guys, I was actually giving you information the whole time. If you've seen Battlestar Galactica, this is a very similar situation. Or that occurs, I think, in season 3.
When you're too good of a spy.
When you're too good of a spy. And in the trailer, you know, because I didn't see the movie, and I always wanted to, I didn't want to spend $10 to do it. Anyway, I was like 10 years old, come on. Anyway, in the movie, or in the trailer, this Nazi looks at him and says, he says, you know, I didn't listen to the Fuhrer to give me encouragement. I listened to you. And the guy's like, I think it's Kenneth Branagh who might play him. Speaking of Shakespeare. Have to check that. Not 100% sure. Anyway, we'll have to fact check. I have no idea what the movie's called. It's probably got a ton of people, and I want to say it's Kenneth Branagh, but I'm not sure. Yes, I am a toaster. Okay, so my point is, if you always act like a jackass, I learned this many times in my life. You know, oh, I'm just kidding. You say things, oh, I'm just kidding. You're joking around all the time. You're ribbing people, giving them hell, blowing smoke up their ass, whatever. Dude, I'm just kidding. You know me. I'm just kidding. The thing is, if you are always an asshole, if you're always acting like an asshole, you're not actually an asshole, but you're always acting like one, you actually are an asshole to people that only see you that way. Megan and I will know, and I'm sure you'll know as well, when you play in a vampire LARP, specifically, you get really deep down into that character, and the thing is, when the game starts, you meet all these new people, these strangers. You don't know their names. You know their character names. They know your character name. They don't know your real name. And if you're not careful, they think you are that person.
That happens to me in the Discord that I'm a part of all the time. People call me by my Discord name rather than my actual name, and it's gotten to a point where that's just what I'm known as now. And that facet of my life has kind of taken on a life of its own as well.
It's like Megan said, it's not just an act after a while. So at what point are you acting and it's fun and games, but at the same time, if you see an actor and you know they're acting, that's not good unless they're playing that role.
Right.
Like in the Ren Fair, I feel like there's a little bit of that skein of skin, that loosely veiled acting, where you know that they're not actually that person. And it's fun because they're acting with you. You know, like Santa Claus comes in and everybody knows that Santa Claus is, you know, the uncle or the aunt or whatever.
It's one big, like, active satire, I feel
it's satire.
Yeah.
It's like satire. But if you're trying to play, you know, I don't know, we've been on a Shakespeare kick. If you're trying to play Hamlet and the guy, you know, is like, to be or not to be, you're not going to like that play because it's not believable. That blows my mind. Getting into modeling, just to start to wrap this up, because we'll do about another 10 minutes. I have not done modeling at all. So I'm a fish out of water in this. You mentioned that there was acting, but it was a snapshot at a time.
Yeah.
So
generally,
how does that play into any of this, or does it?
I mean, and I feel like you're not necessarily a fish out of water with this because you helped me with the last shoot. Like, you were a part of that last shoot, so you got to see.
But I did the photography.
Right, but I mean.
And the lighting.
And the lighting.
But that's different than being in front of the camera.
Well, that is true, but you can probably recognize things that were occurring. And so the last shoot I did, well, I can't talk a lot about it.
Actually, Megan does a bunch of modeling as well.
Ooh! Yeah, you'll probably have a much better fleshed out opinion of it than I do, because it's been a bunch of projects that have no connection to each other, and each one of them has been odd.
You say that,
with
and
another.
you feel that, but the last one literally had to do
Well, that
with
one did.
Norse paganism.
Yeah. So
and film.
and yeah, for that shoot, it was different in the fact that it wasn't snapshot acting. I was also being filmed as well, so I had to stay as close into that character as I possibly could, while also taking movement direction and move your costume over here. Suicide Girl! Oh my gosh! Okay. So I worked at Manchester Music Hall, and we had the Suicide Girls, I think, 2 or 3 times. And, I don't know, I can't remember her real name. I am light friends with one of the women in Suicide Girls. They're awesome. Love them. And they have good merch. Anyway, so for the acting within modeling, this last project meant something more to me than the general modeling projects that I've done. Like the character I was portraying was a character that I actually really cared about and wanted to, instead of having my own interpretation of it, I was striving to achieve something that had maybe necessarily already been done. But for shoots previous to that, you know, it would be...
It was artistic in some ways, right? Actually, it wasn't one for like an art portfolio.
Oh, yeah. So
your buddy Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I've done some modeling for art portfolios where it's been strictly artistic work, and it was trying to show snapshots of emotions, and not necessarily very
deep down depressed emotions.
Yeah, not the pleasant emotions, but like some. That was a hard shoot, but it was really good. But again, I was given time to like take that dive, get into that state, if you will.
Were you able to get out of the state?
Yeah, I was. Not while we were in the space we were working in, because the atmosphere that we had built for it was also a rather hard atmosphere. But it was all for a really good purpose. Like, it was telling about a hard spot in this man's life, and he was trying to acknowledge it and put it, make art out of his pain, if you will. So there was part of me that was very secure in the fact that it wasn't my own pain that I was experiencing. I had been through that situation with him, so I know where he was, and I was able to go back to how I felt in that moment. But it was quite literally just taking a dive into that moment, allowing him to take whatever shots, images he needed of that, coming back out, looking at what we had done, adjusting, going back in. So it was very much just snapshots at a time for that shoot in particular. And that's generally the kind of shooting I had been doing up until that point. While it wasn't necessarily as artful, it was, you would take a couple shots, you'd look through them, take direction, and then going back and adjusting, and
But how did you stay in character? That's a big question. How do you stay focused in the right way for that?
So, while I didn't know the actual terms at the time, I do now because I'm a hypnotist, so I can actually give them actual terms. For me, it was what's called anchoring. And so, for example, like my favorite YouTuber and Instagrammer, Sorella Moore, when she's going to do a photo shoot where she's got to be fierce, she hits her chest and says "Queen" really loud, and that motion, that's that's anchoring her to that feeling of when she's felt the most fierce, the most sexy, the most just womanly in her life, and she's created that pattern of when she does this, it takes her back to that feeling. And so you can anchor to an emotion, to a movement, to all of these things, and the more you use it, the more effective it becomes. And so generally before a shoot, I would play with who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be portraying, and have these movements or like this saying, if you will, that would bring me right back to where I needed to be. Because I knew I would be going in and out a lot, which is called fractionation, and also very useful in going deeper into a character. But for me, it was I needed a way to remember how to get back to that feeling, like a roadmap I had already drawn. Anytime I was going to go back behind the camera, it would be a quick little, and then go right back in.
What is fractionization?
So
Fractionation.
Fractionation is, I'm sure it's a term in different worlds, but it is a hypnosis term for when you are intentionally breaking trance so that when you go in again, you are going to a deeper level. You also do this naturally when you're waking up in the morning and you're hitting the snooze button. You wake up kind of sleepy, but you hit the snooze button. 5 minutes later it goes off. You're more tired than when you hit the snooze button. And if you do that enough times, you feel like shite when you actually get out of bed. That is actually...
Today.
Yeah, that is fractionation. It's a natural phenomena in the brain that if you know how it works, you can use it for
it's a tool.
acting.
It's a tool rather than something you're just guided by.
Right.
Just to do a couple of comments here. The range of human emotions is not completely pleasant. Emotions are both positive and negative, and all very necessary. This is completely true in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
For example, fair weather friends. Fair weather jobs, fair weather work environments. You know, the fact of the matter is, professionality, and I know this is probably coming from left field, but it's something I've been thinking of for a while. Professionality is not always being chipper. Damn it. Like, you are dealing with people. And, you know, in the film industry, there's a way, and if you go against that way, you just don't make it. But there's something unhealthy about that. It's actually something I've been really watching. If you look at film courage, let me type that real quick. Film courage. This YouTube this. These are interviews with that had just been done, like very recent, within the last couple months. So they're about, you know, very recent times and environments. It's with directors and just people in the industry. And essentially they talk about how if you have to be healthy, and experiencing a full range of emotions is balance. That's the yin and the yang, man.
It's cathartic.
It's cathartic.
If you let it be. Yeah.
You've got to have the up and the down. People can handle the downside. They don't deserve your best. Agreed. Yes, Megan has been a model for a long time. Being able to express emotion in a wide range is beautiful. Yeah, well, so I just started doing some acting lessons with this great teacher and actress. Her name is Margot Buchanan, and she's phenomenal. She's taught me a whole lot. If you look at Miracle on 34th Street, she's in it as a bit part, I believe. But
strong one.
It's a pretty strong part, and it's a really cool part. Her story for landing that part, really interesting. If you haven't seen it, or if it's been a long time, essentially what it is she plays the mother of this deaf child, who's presented to Santa Claus. And the way, or one of the ways that Margot got this job, of course, she, you know, is an amazing actress and was in the scene and as in the Hollywood scene and all these things. That's how she got there. But one of the things that gave her a cut above the rest was the fact that she knew sign language. And the girl is deaf. So she was sitting there, like, taking care of that girl, actually on set, you know, talking to her and actually developing that relationship. They had a real relationship that was developed on set. Anyway, my point is, learning about, from Margot and from some of the other things that I've done, Michael Chekhov, the idea of physical acting, how to get in the character, you know, slapping your chest. You call that an anchor. In Chekhov, it'd be called a psychological gesture.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
So, but at what point are you using... So, in acting, there's, you know, everyone knows the method acting. You know, people going to the dark side and such. And really, method acting is many different things. But one technique is to pull from your direct experience and actually relive that. And it's incredibly taxing. So, for your experience with Ren Fair, with D&D, with DreadLore, just role-playing and acting in general, how do you anchor? Is it more of an up-here mental state, or is it a heart state, or a historical state, or what? Is it taxing?
It can be.
Or is it revivifying? That's right, revivifying.
So, it's very mood dependent. Like, depending on just where I'm at that day, especially. Like, say I'm having a day where I'm not necessarily in the best of moods. It would definitely be more of a, I am already up here, and that's the problem. So, I wouldn't be doing anything else up here. It would be more of a physical anchor for me, like a gesture or motion or whatever have you, and that would bring me back down into whatever I need to be in that moment. For bartending, it was always this, grabbing my pinky, and that brought me down, like, out of my head.
Was that your pinky?
Yeah, pinky.
Oh.
Yeah, grabbing the pinky, and that was like my anchor to, because, you know, sometimes you are stressed yourself in that job, and you need to get out of whatever just happened to you with another customer to be able to serve the next one. And so that was an immediate needing to
grounds
descend.
you.
Yeah,
It
ground.
anchors you.
Anchors me into what I have designed that anchor to be. Like, bartender. For this, it was bartending. Like, and that was my anchor, to just be the bartender and handle those emotions at the end of my shift. So that is if I'm in my head. But say I'm, like, really, really tired, and we're going to play D&D, or we're going to do a photo shoot or something like that. That would be more of a psychological anchor, and I would probably have to use a little bit of fractionation with it just to get into the state that I need to be, because it would be like a little bit more of a process to get out of, like, a body tired than it would necessarily a brain fog, if that makes sense.
You know, getting back to role-playing games and that sort of stuff, and DreadLore, just because I'll mercilessly plug the hell out of that. DreadLore is capital RPG, tabletop game. It's supposed to be immersive and narrative. And I think the reason is because, you know, I made it with Ben, and it's the play style that I like, and it's off the high of playing a lot of vampire LARPing, really atmospheric simulationist type stuff, and also it's the way that I run my games. That's the most fun for me. And this is a little bit off topic, but my favorite times of running a game are when I set up the situation, and then I sit back and fold my arms and watch what happens. And 30 minutes go by of my players playing. And in acting, that's one of the things that I learned, because I'm a fairly new new actor. Especially in theater, they'll say, "Go play." You know, and in Ren Fairs, I think it's right on the tip of everyone's tongue to have fun, because it's that little bit of that satire. You are playing, you're being creative, you're exercising those things, and I feel like that's really what it's about. It's about being in this state of excited awareness, of feeling where your body is in every way. And that's one of the things that Margot Buchanan, my acting teacher, and I talked about this last time. It's addictive. You get into this, it's like avatar state. I'm totally pulling from the movie, but like you get into that body and you're experiencing things. And that's awesome. And it's frustrating when you're playing a game or when you're on stage or in front of film and there's something that's stymieing that. You know, you're really getting into character and someone's like, "Can I have a soda?" And you're like, "God damn it, get off your fucking phone." You know? Or you're sitting there trying to film something and your battery dies. Or whatever. You know, it takes you out of it, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes my language in these podcasts or these live streams takes people out of it.
Yeah?
Yeah, people don't like profanity. I understand. Yeah. People don't like me taking the Lord's name in vain. You just got to understand it's not my Lord. It's not from an offensive place.
You never specify which Lord you're taking in vain.
It's true. And I say that in all seriousness. It's not profanity for me. So, you know. Okay. Let's talk about... Whoo, Megan blew it up. People can't handle... Okay. Meisner's Has You Come From? Truth. Meisner, I was actually told to not put Meisner on my acting resume. Not because it's not good, it's just because people that tend to get into Meisner, those are the people that kind of pull a Jared Leto from, what is it called? Not Suicide Girls, Suicide Squad, what is it? Is it Suicide Squad?
He was the Joker in Suicide Squad.
Was
or
it?
Suicide, oh Lord.
It's in that vein.
Not...
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway.
The Harley Quinn.
The one where she made her thing.
Yeah.
It might be Suicide Squad, actually. It is Suicide Squad.
Is it?
Isn't it?
Suicide Squad.
I think it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Megan, help. Anyway, the idea is like to get so into character that you start being a cunt. Yeah, so not that Meisner is always that way. From actual acting teachers, I've been told the problem with it is, you know, for instance, like my father's death. If I really want to get deep down and dirty, I'm going to pull from that. But how many times do you pull from that and relive it, and then you burn yourself out, and you actually cope with it, and you've coped with something in a weird way for profit. Like, you got to be careful when you deal with it.
Yeah.
Stanislavski, yeah.
A certain personality type might be drawn to that method of acting, I guess. More so, like, that would be a natural tendency of certain personality types, because that would be their path of least resistance to getting into character type, which is why it might be not necessarily great to put on a resume.
Speak up.
Sorry, yeah, I was mumbling there real bad. So, certain personality types might be drawn to different methods of getting into character, because for those personality types, it would be easier, that would be their path of least resistance into that character. So that might be why certain methods are not as preferred, not because they're not effective, not because they're dangerous or unhealthy, but because the natural proclivity of certain personality types to use that, while those personality types are already more prone to not being able to detach from their creation.
Well, and you got to give the people what they want. You know,
Yeah.
like, just talking again on Shakespeare, like, if you play Hamlet wrong, which is to say, you don't play them like Kenneth Branagh did. You know, a lot of people will tell you you did it wrong. There's certain expectations that you're supposed to have, or that people have, I should say. So, you know, do you get into it, you play it dark? Do you get into it, you play it flippity floppies?
Flippity flippity. That's how I play it.
Yeah, getting into the old Stanislavski, and emotional memory.
It is Suicide Squad.
Yeah, indeed.
Sweet.
There's a lot of Stanislavski is essentially the granddaddy of modern, and I say modern meaning the 20th century acting. So Meisner got all of his crap from Stanislavski. So did Strasbourg. And I don't know anything about Atlantic's practical aesthetics, but I guarantee they did too, because prior to that, it's pantomime. It's essentially vaudevillian type of acting. You know, if you're scared, you're, you know, and if you're ashamed, you're doing this, because it's incredibly physical acting. People went to the stage knowing that it was acting. It's why people could wear masks and still act. Because you know what those, you know, we're programmed to know what those emotions are. And like if you're clean cut and you're doing your soldier thing, you look like a soldier. Or if you're old, you know, not every old person is bent over, but everyone reads that as old. And Stanislavski got really into that emotional side. Man, that's a whole lot of cool stuff. Anyway, okay, let's wrap this up. We talked about a whole lot. I think the main focus for me, the thing that really interested me about our discussion, is how all of these seemingly disparate things, really they're not so disparate. And they merge in a lot of ways. I find it interesting is the wrong word. I find it appropriate that we're interested in all these different things.
Yeah.
Because they're not so different. You're drawn to the same kinds of things and the same needs, the reasons you do them, right? Not just for money. Because, as you well know, they don't make money very easily.
Yeah. Truth.
And when does it become a political thing? When does it become, look, you know, you're playing a Viking and you're not a pagan, or you're not Scandinavian, or you guys have tread on the bottom of your boots and the Vikings didn't. At what point is it trolling, and at what point do people that have their issues have a real case to be made? You know, I played in a student film last year. I played a gay guy actually named William, and his lover died, and he came to their funeral, and his lover was his lover's family was staunchly against homosexuality. So he shows up and he's in the person's room, his lover's room, and the mother walks in. And that's the scene of the short film. And I'm not gay. So there's the question of, am I taking that away from a homosexual actor? Right? You know, why not have that a person of color? Which is to say someone who's not white. Right? Why couldn't it be someone else? Why couldn't it be a trans man who is gay and why not? These are good questions. Is it right that I got that role, or is it very appropriate? You know, I guess that's up to the casting director. Is there something weird with the patriarchy? You know, the mother was a what would you call it? Cisgendered white woman. We were very stereotypical in the way we looked. Is that bad? At what point are we, is it going too far? I think that's a huge conversation. many issues, just heavy laden.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted issue because
time.
it's gonna, each situation that pulls on those threads is going to have a different answer because there's going to be different factors that played into who got casted, who was around, is it a big town, is it a small town, did the people who get, speaking kind of on the nose of an upcoming opportunity for myself, maybe it's just who is that actor or actress comfortable playing that part with? Who can they do it justice with? If that is what they're hired to do, what is giving them the greatest odds of playing it and playing it well? Also, so for each scenario, I feel like there's going to be a drastically different answer, just because acting itself is complex. Creating one of these projects is complex, and so there's going to be so many different things playing on what has already come together, and some of them might have a right or wrong answer, but I think a lot of it's a huge gray area that we as society just have not fleshed out yet, and is there even a way to flesh that out?
There's that idea of being a poser, in the punk rock community. Not that I am a punk or whatever, although I've been accused of it. Being a poser, at least back in the day, damn.
Sorry. Whew, feel better now.
Being a poser that's possibly the worst thing you could say to someone who's punk. I mean, nowadays maybe it's different, but yeah, you call someone a poser back in the day, they'll fight you. Or nowadays people call them LARPers.
Yeah, LARPers is.
But it's to say someone who's acting and not being real. And man, was I acting in that role? Yes, I'm not gay. I don't find other men sexually attractive. I find them attractive. I don't find them sexually attractive. I'm not gay. But I can imagine the heartache, and I can imagine being that character, and I can get into that mindset. But is that false? And this gets into a little bit of my own predilections, but I lean towards, if you're acting and you're doing it justice, you're acting. You should be able, if you are able to play that character, you don't have to believe what that character believes. You don't have to be what that character is. You don't have to agree with them. And in my mind, and this is something that actually pushes me even further away, even from some of the teachers I've had, you don't even have to like that person, which that's heavily contested in an artistic way. And the reason I say that is, again, going back to Nazis. No one would have a problem with me playing a Nazi because I'm white. And, I'm like a quarter German or something. But you can get so offensive on either way of that. So do I have to be that person to act like them? That's stupid in my mind. Now, of course, again, you get into responsibility. If you have a whole pool of actors and only the certain ones are getting pulled, well, you're really not talking about the acting anymore, are you? You're talking about
what's going on behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes,
yeah.
The industry. And specifically in my case, we're in Kentucky. There's just not a lot of people, and it's a student film. I'm probably one of 2 or 3 people that actually auditioned. So it's a totally different scenario, different animal. Okay.
True.
Last words. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Be nice to people. I don't know.
Be nice to people, damn it.
Be nice to people, damn it.
There are 5 types of acting. Whoo, doggy. Whole bunch. Different circumstances. There will be many different biased people on both sides. Being fake is generally a bad thing, unless that is what you are expected to do. Acting is acting. Early theater, only men were allowed to perform, so tons of men dressed as women. The fact that it is an issue is ridiculous in my opinion. You know, it's a cultural thing, and our culture has changed, and that's a topic I would love to discuss. Maybe I can find someone who's polar opposite of me, and I think we'd have a very good discussion. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you, Megan, and the other person who's on. Say hello, other person. Thank you, Kaycee, for jumping in, clutch. We will actually do another thingamadeal here in the following weeks, probably based on Norse paganism and some projects that you have going on. You're about to launch some stuff.
Yeah.
So we will talk about that. Next week, the plan is to do what we were going to do this week, which is with Matthew Williams and Jake Rourke, two filmmakers who were in Kentucky who've made several feature-length films. Maniac Farmer is on Amazon if you want to see it. It's an interesting film. The soundtrack is awesome. And he did Night of the First Day, which I was in. It's not released yet. Anyway, that will hopefully be next week. I will post on the Instagram and the Twitter.
There you go. Something
Bunkin. And also, there will be on DreadLore YouTube. That's DreadLore. We'll be doing the Game Talk Sundays, 7 p.m. So, that is all for this eve. And Megan, you might have to be on there to chit chat about some paganism.
Ooh, yeah.
All right. Later, guys.
What?
Yes, we will have the added. It shall happen.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Now that I'm reading them. Yes.
Peace.